think about everything you need for a fall, a concussion, a scrape, whatever. Look at your equipment. So it's sort of part of your boat, you know, part of the boat. And it's not to scare you. We're not here to scare you because there's bad things that can happen. I know Ben and Sue had a situation on their boat, which could have been even worse. So anything's possible, but safety is first, and then we'll have a lot of fun, right? I mean, it's really the name of the game. So there is a disclaimer at the first part, and we just want to make sure everybody knows that this is not to take place of the advice of your healthcare provider. All this information can be found on the internet, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so you can ask questions anytime you want. We're going to demonstrate some stuff. So the first thing is fall prevention. Has anybody fallen on their boat yet? Okay.
I think we all have fallen.
Well, Russ, so what happened? Just a quick story. Anything
I was
bad?
walking outside next to my therapy, and she saw it. I went down hard, went downstairs.
Okay.
I was down for a couple minutes before I could get myself up. And Mark, okay, you need that again. I'm not allowed to get her up, though.
And I remember Ben coming out our boat with his nice socks on, walking up our deck, you know, I'm like, take off the socks if they're coming on my boat. I have skid socks in the doorway. Take off your shoes, put on your skids, you know, the ones with the skids on the bottom, you can find them everywhere. If you've been in the hospital, you got a hospital there. Put it on the boat, right? You probably have 1,000 of them, we all. So they're really important. We recently,
I just wanted to say, we see so many people getting on boats or walking in the docks barefoot.
Oh, that is.
I cannot understand people who are accomplished boaters. I mean, you could get splinters, you could stub your toe. I mean, I don't understand that. That the socks is a good idea if you don't want to wear shoes, I guess. Better than nothing.
Slipped in
I
regular
had to
socks.
mention that because it frustrates me.
well, the main thing about, like, you see some of the docks here, you can definitely have splinters that are out of control, and you know, but it's just not worth it. And if you have diabetes, or if you have gout, or if you have a bad toe, or if you have, you're going to be sick from just a splinter. It's like stupid stuff that we can prevent.
You get a nail or something in your foot.
Yeah, so it's really important that we think of that. See that I just replaced our tread steps going up. Our boat is 2005, and the railing is low. It's not going up. So if you're underway bringing up coffee to the top deck, we had 3-inch steps. So you would tippy-toe up the steps, put your coffee on the top. You go, whoa! The railing's here. You got to run across all the dinghy, then run up the other stairs, and you know. And I always have my flotation device on. I mean, he had the door open and we had a wave and he went across the pilot room out the door and grabbed the railing and he would have just gone right over the railing.
Wow.
So that's another thing where get a belly pad, get something small that you don't even know it's on you. Because I wear it, I come off the dinghy, I go into town, I go out to dinner with it on. I'm like, nobody knows it's there. You know, it's just this little thing, you know? It's not big, it's not ugly, you know? So those are really important. Let's see, so what was your boater's vantage, which was really good? Always keep one hand for the boat and one for you. Hold on to an immovable object with one hand. Because you just don't want to do stairs and try to carry tape. You just
You
can't.
can't be carrying anything.
It's just, yeah. Okay, so you guys get the point. Sprains, fractures of your extremities. So some items that I found on my boat was like a relax pillow. I found some really great magazines that I'm keeping on the boat. They're big, so they cover a whole extremity, like if you fracture your lower leg. Like we got duct tape. This is stuff that's around the boat. You want me to demonstrate? So come on over here. Yeah, we want a leg. So let's just say she fractured her tibia, or let's just say, or she had a lower fracture. Let's just say she fell and she can't get up, or it just really hurts.
And I have sports on, so don't worry.
Nuts.
I want to scare everybody.
Yeah. So go ahead. So you could use the pillow either as a cushion to actually support and put a magazine and actually wrap it around. I don't want to put this on you. But you know, you gotta get the idea. You're gonna, let's say it's broken like here, or she says that's where it hurts, and you see this big, you know, area that's either gashed, which we will talk about separately, how to take care of a wound. But if it's not broken skin and she can't walk, you're gonna wanna mobilize it until you get help. So you can either just take a magazine like this, look how nice that is, and you can just take this pillow and wrap it, and then you can just duct tape it. And she can even, you know, she shouldn't be walking on it if it hurts, but at least you have an immobilized leg. Do you have any questions about that?
Should you ice it too?
You could ice it. You could ice it through this stuff if you want. Do you guys have ice kits on your on your boat? Because there are some really cool things I want to show you while we're at it.
Or a Ziploc bag.
It's like
So it doesn't leak.
You could buy like things like this. You ever see the click heats? Pass this around. This one's like a hand one, and when you click it, it gets hot, and when you freeze it, it's cold. And it's reusable. So you don't have to find ice. You don't have to find heat. You just keep using this over and over again. You can freeze it. Yeah. Let's see what else. Magazines, pillows. Keep them around on the boat. Just have them somewhere. You know, don't throw them out. If you have to immobilize a shoulder, you can take a bed sheet. Let's just say, like what happened with our friend Ken. Well, he broke his, well, that's a whole other thing, but if his shoulder is broken, he can't move his arm, you know, you can take a sheet, right? I mean, this big, and this is a nice soft one. Open it up, like this, and just kind of wrap it, you know, wrap it to her body, right? And maybe up or around, and make sure that there's a way to keep her happy. And just so she doesn't move it, unless she
That's
has-
very fashionable.
So, just an evening.
Just for a second, since you mentioned Ken Thompson, we had, he did a compound fracture on his arm when he came off the boat down. And he actually bones breaking out here and here, and blood, and yelling and screaming. It was pretty nasty, and it was Labor Day weekend. And I know I have maybe 3 minutes to help because I go in the shop. So what I did is, I was thinking, what do we do? He's bleeding, it's good. I grabbed a roll of bounty paper towels, wrapped it around here to stop the bleeding, put it tight, and what do you call it? Duct tape. And it kept it perfectly straight, and it stopped them from bleeding all over the place. And it stopped the movement, and it worked. It's just a simple thing. Yeah.
And you know, he tumbled down the stairs, right? Your 3
It's
levels.
just
Oh,
a
yeah, he
freak
went down every
accident.
step.
So he could have hurt his neck.
Oh, we could have.
Oh, he
He
could,
could have been
oh.
unconscious.
Well,
It
we
could-
saw
it could
him.
kill him.
His neck.
And it's actually, we accuse, well, he accuses his wife of pushing her. She was giving the demonstration how to open the window, and they're turning it. We weren't here. Sue and I were somewhere else on the boat, and we just heard them screaming. Oh my God, it was pretty bad. And he's also a draftsman, so he was really concerned with his fingers.
Yeah.
And so they took him to the emergency room right here in Essex, and the doctor on call said, we can't treat this now, we need to get somebody, and they called all over the state to find a good orthopedic person. And they did. But they
Well, you
called
were
all
lucky
over.
because
They did it probably within 2 hours, they got a doctor.
you were already docked.
Yeah, we were in the dock right here.
So that's another thing. What if you're underway and you're in the middle of war or something? Or cutting them. Yeah. So you know it could be. It
Well,
could have
if we
been
were
worse.
sure, it
It
would
could
be
have
much
been
worse.
worse.
Yeah.
So just while we're at it, what would you do in that case? How do you use the radio? Ben, tell us how to use the radio for an emergency.
Excuse me?
Get on channel 16.
Channel 16. What do
In
you
that
do?
case, it's a Mayday. Something
Mayday,
bleeding like
Mayday,
this. This is a
Mayday.
Mayday situation.
You say Mayday 3 times?
Actually,
Mayday 3 times.
I think May Day is, it's technically not May Day. I'd be May Day, but I was told by the Coast Guard that would not be a May Day.
Your pan-can?
Yeah,
Pan-can.
yeah, it'd be a pan-can because it's not
Like,
Like the boat's
ready
on
with
sinking?
fire.
right.
I'm just, I'm not, I would use a May Day, but I'm just letting you know.
I guess I would give their attention because otherwise.
Okay, so let's say you, and then what do you do? What do you need to do next? next? Let's say you say Pam, 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 Pam. What do you do next? You have to know your position. They're going to ask you, you know, what's the name of your boat? How many people are on the boat? What is the incident that is happening? And where's your coordinates? And of course, you have to stop the boat so you don't move anywhere. And is that all you do on the radio? And then of course you have to, you know, you can attend, if you have some other people on the boat, they'll get attend to the person, so you're not, they're not, you know, I mean, if they need to have CPR, technically, what would we do then, right? I mean, if they needed CPR, would you call on the radio first and then?
Depends, but right away, after you determine they're unresponsible, not breathing, not pulseless, then you call immediately, then get to compression.
Okay, so, and we're gonna go over CPR too, but just see how you can kind of like, what do you do first, you know? And if you don't really know, if you have other people in the boat, you say, what do we gonna do? You know, like we're all boaters, we're all in situations.
The first aid class I've taken said check, call, care. So you check the scene to make sure it's safe for you to do whatever you need to do.
Okay.
You're not gonna endanger yourself by getting involved.
Right.
Then you make the call. And when you're making the call, if you're shore-based and you have an AED, you send somebody, say, you go get the AED, whatever, and then you start to care for the person after you've got those things in place.
Thank you, that's good. And that's another thing, so there's lots of mnemonics, like we learned PASS yesterday. Those things help us because, you know, you don't want to panic. That's when you just say, oh, I wish I did that differently because I didn't take the minute to think it through. You know? Anyway, back to the sheet, just so we finish this. You know, this could be used also for a sling, you know, so, or, you know, or a towel, you know, so just think about what's all around our boat. We have lots of stuff to get us out of trouble. Any questions about that? How to use a sling? Okay. If your toes or fingers are fractured, you know, you stub your toe and it looks like it's broken, what do you do? It's called buddy taping. Yeah, it's like I'm your buddy. Let's tape you to the other guy. You can use any tape you want. You can use Scotch tape. You can use anything in the kitchen. The stronger, the better. You know, and then of course you're going to need to get some kind of medical care for that. How to use an ACE wrap? When would you use an ACE wrap? When would you use an ACE wrap, you guys?
Sprains.
A sprain would help, inflammation, swelling, right? It's great to have an ACE.
It's also good if you need a pressure dressing. I mean, if you have a wound, which we'll get into in a minute, and you know, you're applying pressure for 20, 30 minutes, can be stop bleeding. You want to maintain that, still maintain circulation, so you don't want something that's going to be cast, something permanent, to be able to take it off easily, but it will help you to put pressure on the site so that you can maintain that stop.
You want to put it on me? You want to use my leg or my arm? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we want to do it from the foot up? Like just, you can use your foot and for a start of the leg, but it's nice if you. Here, dude. Oh, you don't want to be able to? Here. Hey, I gotta do this too.
So let's just say we're going to immobilize the knee. We want to just overlap and make it snug. And they're easily reusable. Have an unlimited supply. And then this one on the end actually has a Velcro stick. And sometimes a pitch, and you see a pitch, use tape. It's like what's sticking to the leg.
And you don't want to spiral around the same area over and over because that's when you're just going to cut off your circulation. So you want to either spiral up, or you could, you know, have you ever seen it where it makes a V? You ever seen people
It's like
do
around
it?
an ankle.
Yeah.
Figure eight type.
You want to see that? Do you know how to do an ankle? Because you might, ankles are really, will happen, especially with flip-flops on and stairs. The ankle's a good one to know more than anything. Yeah, so the big thing is, and then you can always check the pulse. You know, the pulse, there's a pulse here, right here. And
Or pinch the toes or fingers and make sure that they get red again, they get white and then red, to make sure the circulation's there and that the sensation is there, people can feel the touching.
you can even say, is it too tight? You know, do you feel like it's too tight? And they'll tell you that. Any questions about that so far? Has anybody ever used an ACE wrap where they had to put it on their foot?
Oh, yeah. After
after skiing.
There you go. That would be,
Yeah.
so take a look how you do this.
And you always want to put it in kind of a neutral position, so you don't want to have it in the extreme.
What she means by that is that you want the foot where it naturally lies. You know, you wouldn't put an A strap on a bent knee. You'd have the person straight in the knee. Same thing with the foot.
So I like to go back and forth instead of march totally up the extremity, just to give it a little more support.
So you can see, well, see the V? It's like, so you're going to zigzagging up. Yeah. Okay, that feels good. Okay, so where are we now here? Wound care. So Judy's going to talk about that.
Okay, so when it comes to wound care, there's all kinds of flavors of wounds, obviously, and a lot of this is just simple common sense, but I just want to point out a couple of things. So you can have the choice of laceration, which is a more linear, sort of straight line cut, usually a lot of bleeding. Puncture for a whole number of things, lots of sharp objects on the boat, or you can see in our beautiful seaside locations that we attend. Or then there's the typical abrasion, which is really like a road rash, where you really slough off the outer layer of skin. So your goal is really to, first of all, stop any bleeding. Some of you may be familiar with people that are on blood thinners. There's a whole slew of meds out there, so it makes you a little bit more at risk when it comes to bleeding. The second thing you want to do is prevent infection. That's really the risk. And you want to maintain as much function as possible and certainly improve overall level of comfort. So those are really your goals when it comes to wound care. You don't need fancy schmancy equipment, really. It's really to try to clean the wound as easily as you can. So commercially bottled water, distilled water, contact solution, something that's sterile. You don't want to be putting seawater that could have all kinds of stuff. If you're in New Bedford Harbor, you don't want that. Here you won't. Maybe less of an issue with Cuddy Hunt, but if you're at Anchorage, you never know what's out there. It could be sea life, it could be what humans have done to the water. So you don't really want to use seawater.
And washing your hands,
You want
right?
to wash your hands to start with when you do wound care. Even if you're going to wear gloves, it's preferable to wear gloves. You don't have to be sterile. It really protects you as well as the wound. And you really want to just wash it out as much as you can flush that out. The classic, thing that would happen in an emergency room is that it won't be irrigated, and the whole point is to get debris out there. Anytime there's a puncture or entry point in your skin, something can get in, something can get out. So you really got to be careful to try to get as much of that out as you can. You can use something as simple as a syringe if you have one. If you boat, not everybody travels with one. If you don't, you can, again, your friendly Ziploc bag, put a pinhole in it. You just want to get a little bit of a head of pressure and kind of squeeze it all over. So just get that, whatever contaminants, sand, shells, metal, potential contaminants, which you really don't want to have infection problems.
Can I show them this? This wound wash I bought, I know it's commercially stuff, but at least you know it's clean. It's got a nice spout on it and it sprays right on the wound. And you can use the whole can up, who cares? And just get a new one and it's sterile. I'm just saying if you're out, this is in my kit because I don't want to go looking for stuff, I'll have this ready to go. And so if you want to look at this, but you can see it's sterile wound wash, you get it and see that.
So if it's a laceration you're dealing with, again, it's an item that's in most first aid kits or steri strips. They're kind of like fibers across, little adherent strips. And what you try to do is approximate the edges of the wound once you have irrigated and cleaned it out, and almost make like a tent at the edges. And just pull the edges together, and it will heal over time. It may not be the prettiest wound, but they'll be closed and won't be infected, and that's what you want. So that's with the laceration. An abrasion, a little bit different because you don't really have any edges or anything to close, and where you want to really wash it out, irrigate it, and then put some type of antibiotic, neosporin, bacitracin are probably the two most common, and just goop it up so that nothing's going to get in there. And the more it's exposed to air, actually the better.
And don't touch the tube to the wound. Once you do that, you contaminate the whole. Put it on your gauze and then put it on the wound. If you want more, put more on
And
it.
the final part to dressing a wound is really the type of dressing you put on it. And so you don't want to put something that's going to stick to the wound. And so there's lots of non-adherent dressings, Telfa, Tegaderm, something called Xeroform, which looks like gauze that all has antibiotic ointment right in it. And so that when it comes off, it doesn't tear off all the tissue.
Can you use something like cling wrap or, plastic
Sure,
wrap?
over the
Zip?
whole thing, absolutely, especially if it's a situation where you had to compress for a while because of bleeding, and then you finally stopped the bleeding, you dressed the wound, and now you want to put some pressure on it. That's a perfect example. You can easily take it off and then take it right back on if you need to.
What did you say? What was this?
Cling wrap?
Cling wrap.
It's like it's a gauze roll, basically. Looks like an ace wrap halfway between a
You
gauze.
guys want to look at some of this stuff. This is a Telfa. This is the non-stick dressing. Telfa's a brand. It's called non-stick. And these are steri strips. Have you seen steri strips with like little piece of tape? So let's say you have a cut, like she's saying. You know, when you pull it together, it's like, you can even take Scotch tape. You pull the wound together, you know, the gash, and then you just tape the edges so that they're together. I've done that to a lot of patients, and they heal beautifully. They don't have this big, ugly gash because I put the edges together and let it heal. You gotta keep it on for like 10 days. What'd you do? What'd you do, Paul?
Took his picture.
He's camera shy.
Very nice.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't get a model release.
You're banned from the rest of them.
And then there's dog bites, and they really need to be watched.
Yeah, dog bites. Yeah, dog bites. You got a tetanus shot. Yeah.
Oh, do you do tetanus too?
So the goal with the wound, really, you want it should be closed within the first 8 hours. That's sort of the critical time where you get a boatload of, no pun intended, infection after that, so there's high risk. Unless it's on the face, much better blood supply, so you've got a 24-hour window there. You really want to try to close that up before. And then, you know, you're going to do surveillance on that wound. Look for any increased swelling, redness, you know, sort of a cellulitis in the skin area around it, any drainage, certainly fever, chills, or any signs of infection. And that usually happens, you know, 48 to 72 hours later. So it's really just watching everything. Usually fairly benign. As you said, you know, the ultimate result will be fine, you know, from a healing perspective, unless it's really a physical area. But the important part is to stop the bleeding and just dress the wound and prevent that infection.
Yeah, I also have things like this, maxi pads, I have tampons I have on the boat, just because, you know, if you, I mean, even I hate to say this, but what if you're in a gunshot wound or anything? I mean, anything's possible. You could just shove a tampon in a wound. I mean, people, bleeding to death is the biggest thing. You know, you can bleed to death very, very quickly, and you never know where you're in this situation. So I just put a lot of stuff in my boat. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so now we'll switch to burns. And, you know, burns can happen for a number of reasons, and there's basically 3 flavors of them: first, second, and third degree burns. So the first degree is your basic sunburn, right? We've probably all been there at some point in their life. No blisters, just really redness, and it's really symptomatic. You know, sometimes people just put, you know, cool compresses or aloe gel, they have it, and something that's usually in the first aid kit. One of the other important aspects of burns is also that how much of your body's involved. You know, you can have burns from all kinds of nasty engine reasons or an unexpected fiery situation or whatever you might have encountered. And so it's really how much of your body, percentage area, you hear that when you hear about burn victims. So you just think about it, the size of your palm is about 1% of your body surface area. So it's kind of a good way to estimate what might be part of the whole overall body's involvement with burn area. The big risk once you get to more severe burns is really the loss of fluid. And that's really where burn patients get in trouble. That and an infection later on. So first degree, your basic sunburn, you know, lotions, aloe. Second degree is when you have blisters. Again, you just want, you know, cool compresses are really what helps there. Lotions and, you know, anti-inflammatories sometimes. You can also get burns from handling lines. You know, we see Sue wears gloves all the time.
I do, yeah.
Anybody that's got, you know, rope burns.
Yep, had it.
You know, right, so you know, or hot coffee or whatever, so you have to be cognizant of any of that.
Judy, one of the things for sunburn is if you don't have aloe or lotion, ice. Just get as much ice as you can and put it right on the burn. That helps if you don't have.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. And also, you have to be a little careful when it comes to ice or heat.
Well, I would wrap it.
It's kind of like 15 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
And make sure that you monitor it because the skin can get quite sensitive and it
Yes.
can do other harm. So when you put it directly on wounds, you just got to pay a little more attention. And then the third degree is, you know, that's where really muscle and bone can be involved. It's all the deeper layers, and you often will go into shock. So it's like a serious, you know, big deal. Actually, none of us have to come close to that. One of the other things that can happen, those of us that like to, you know, take off a dive off the back of our boat is jellyfish scales. And so here's where, warm shower hydrocortisone cream works. The grandma science tells you vinegar.
Yeah.
And I think, to some of what Nancy had to say earlier, think about what you have on your boat. It's kind of like, MacGyver for those that remember that show. You have a paperclip and you can, fix anything. So what do you have aboard that you can somehow repurpose? Ben told us that, cleaning our windows with the vinegar diluted and the tracks when they get all sticky is really helpful. So we've got spray vinegar on the boat. I see now that Windex is making a vinegar flavor. So there's something to that acetic acid that makes up vinegar. And so it's got multiple uses. And cleaning coffee pots, there's all kinds of stuff. Your ice machine, with diluted solutions. So having vinegar aboard, it may help. If it makes it feel worse, wash it off. Showers when you
What about ammonia?
What's that?
In Hawaii, they use ammonia on the
Yeah, it's
lifeguards
just,
carry it if you get stung by a Portuguese.
Right, so any, acid is probably going to help. Just be careful it's going to do more harm. Or, would you rather smell like a salad or? So it's, a little sort of, I guess, old grandma tale, but I think there's probably something to that.
There's a thing called sea lice. I don't know if people have heard of that. It's the jellyfish that haven't developed yet. They're invisible in the water, usually early in the season. And they tend a lot of times go towards women because like go underneath the bathing suits and stuff. Because I've gotten bitten. You get like these little like pimples sort of things. What you have to do is if you have a shower or whatever on your boat, take your suit off, go in, just wash everything off because you can't see them. Turn your bathing suit inside out. And there is a stuff you can buy online for it too, which also has sunscreen in it. But they're called sea
And
lice.
it's kind of like like poison ivy. Like you're not touching it, but why is it still?
They're in the water. You don't
It
see
gets
it.
everywhere.
It's terrible.
That's good. I never
Sea
thought of
lice,
that.
yeah.
So we're going to go on to eye injuries. Anybody here ever have anything really caustic in their eye and you want to like pull your eyeball out? I put like the wrong solution, putting my contact in by mistake. And the thing is, you've got to irrigate like crazy. Find yourself a sink if you get any kind of chemical or oil or anything. And contact solution is good for, like we said, like Judy said, for lots of stuff. So even if you don't wear contacts, if you put that in your kit.
It's cheap and it's sterile.
Exactly. You can use it for tons of stuff. And the thing about it is you just got to wash that chemical out of the eye. You could be irrigating for like 5 minutes. If you think you scratched your eye, with something like a corneal abrasion, of course you have to have help right away, but you want to patch the eye. Just close the eye, cover it gently with even that telephone showed you can cut it, a little tape across it, and then of course you need eye care right away from a doctor. Any questions about that?
Not a question, but just another thing that we carry is a
Little bowl,
the little cup, the eye wash, and the little little cup that you put it in.
Yeah, and you can use that. It's not as liberal as when you're standing over a sink and you're
But
going
for
like
other
this.
for other things, I've had when I
Okay.
felt like I had something in my eye to try to like wash it out.
Hey, if it helps you, they have them out there. They're there for that, and they also have, you can buy like here we go again. You want to have eye wash? You can have an eye wash, but they put a spout on it that actually washes the eyes. So they make them different for each part of your body, just like the wound wash. So they're kind of nice to have, and it's sterile. Okay. And seasickness. Anybody have any problem with that? We pretty good about that? Yeah. It's good to have when you have guests on your boat that have never been on. They're like, what a beautiful day. And then they're sick the whole time they're there. You can't get scopolamine patches because that's prescription, right? But you can have Dramamine, if they're really sick, have ginger ale. Ginger is for nausea. So I have little cans of ginger ale just on the boat because we've had some rough
They're also
seas.
great
Like
for
it.
wine spritz.
You're great with the yeah. First, a little for you, a little for me. All right.
Two additional things. I also carry, because we like it, crystallized ginger. It's like a candy.
Oh,
Yeah, crystallized ginger. And also something someone told us about that we took on a cruise, Motion Ease. It's a little bottle. You can buy it at Walmart. It's very inexpensive. And you just dab a little bit, like behind your ear.
Oh.
And no. It's a little bottle like this. Yeah, it's a liquid. And this couple that told us about it swears by it. So we have that on the boat, and we brought that when we went across the ocean from Lisbon to Miami, just in case, like, well, you know, let's just put this on. Because I also bought the wristbands, because I was concerned. And it was rough, but we didn't have a problem. But motion ease, yeah.
That's
Motion,
good.
then,
It doesn't make you drowsy?
no, no, no,
So that's
no.
a nice one then.
No, because you just, yeah, you dab it, it goes through your skin, and I understand it works very quickly.
That's good, thank you for that.
If we're on a long passage, bark boat, keep saltines on board.
Saltines, yeah.
Like for mornings.
Yeah.
Ginger snaps, yeah.
Ginger snaps, yeah, candy.
Trader Joe's ginger snaps.
And then there's always driving the boat, you know, look at the horizon, look at the yellow.
Yeah, look at.
Might be a good distraction.
Okay, do you want to do that?
Right, so, you know, neck, back pain, I mean, who hasn't had back pain? It's, you know, it's very common, but you can certainly easily, sometimes a good hefty cough or sneeze will, if you're at risk, will help you herniate a disc, which can create some really horrific back and leg pain. There's not a whole lot you can do about it. It's really non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, things like Motrin, Advil, always with food, never on an empty stomach. And there are heat people and there are ice people. So ice pack or a heat pad. We actually carry an extra heat pad in the boat, which we use quite often, more than you think. And again, you want to be careful with your skin. You don't want to apply it more than 15, 20 minutes at a time. But it really is symptomatic relief usually, and it's kind of a self-limiting problem in most instances. You don't want to be a lump and not move around. You still want to be able to do some light stretching and just walking. And unless you have some horrific pain with, you know, incontinence and can't move anything, then that's a true medical emergency. You have to be back there.
We often wonder, should we be heating this or cooling this? We say heat or. It just makes no difference.
You have to really think about it. It's an external, doesn't really get anywhere. It's really to the muscles, and the muscles talk to the nerves, and the nerves are irritated by whatever's pressing on them. So you just kind of back on that chain.
And you know who you are. You know, some of us have to get sciatica a lot, or we have, you know, I get on the floor and stretch every morning because
Me too.
I'm telling you, because you get on a sneeze.
Because you're stiff when you get up.
Yeah.
The sneeze
and-
often does it. Anything that increases intrathoracic straining.
Yeah, and then if you have to go on a boat, you know, it's like, how are you gonna do that if you can barely stand up? You know, so, and you can also put on, well, they do make these immobilizers, but you know, what I'm saying is if you know you have back problems, you need to have that on the boat. You know, you could buy those ones that stretch over with the Velcro, just to give you a little bit of comfort while you're driving the boat, so you can get home.
And then if it's neck, I mean, really, you know, heads are really heavy. If anybody's ever held one in an operating room, they're heavy. You know, so it's a ton of work for your muscles to do it. And, you know, when you can't move your neck comfortably, I mean, well, stop it. It's really hard. So just, you know, getting yourself in a position of comfort, however you want to arrange pillows, for really to sort of be, you know, a little bit recumbent so that you're not, you know, supporting the weight of your head. Just give those muscles a break.
And we'll do excessive bleeding, we'll just do that.
Yeah, so Nancy's already mentioned a lot of this is whatever absorbent material that you may have in your boat, and really direct pressure is the key when it comes to bleeding. And that can take a half an hour to adjust for a second. Certainly not in the eyeballs, but anywhere else, pretty much is fair game except for the neck. And you may want to put a pressure dressing on once it has stopped. Certainly any bleeding tendencies, medications that make you a little more at risk or easy to start with, things like Eliquis, or some people still on Coumadin, aspirin, even baby aspirin, Plavix, all that stuff, you know, for all those cardiac reasons, it does work against you. And so you really need to stop the bleeding. And bleeding can be, you know, sort of oozy and dark blood, or arterial where it's pumper, and that's where you're really in trouble.
Yeah.
Now, I was, for muscle pain, I have a mild solution of CBD aboard, and, you know, something like, you know, a leg gets cramped or something like that often, rub that on and let it sit for 15 minutes and things are much better. So. And if you have guests aboard, you should find out if they're on blood thinners, because please don't give them aspirin or Advil or anything but Tylenol. If they're on Coumadin.
Yeah, it's a good point. You know, that's another thing. When you have people come on your boat, you know, a little baby, and they have their friends or whatever. You don't know a thing about them, really. They're your guests, but you put their life jackets on. But you know, it's good to kind of take them around the boat and show them stuff a little bit. Not, you know, just because you don't know when they're going to need to react, even though they're guests.
Yeah, we have a list right by our radio of what steps you go through when you call for help. If, God forbid, something happened to both of us, you show the guests and say, this is what you do. This is how you use the radio.
Can you share that with me? I'll share
Yeah,
it.
I have it on
Yeah,
note.
take a picture.
I'll take a picture and send it to you.
Because, you know, anything that we're doing.
Yeah, you gotta remember, the average person has never touched a radio,
Exactly.
right out of the box, right? So-
Right, you know, what the Coast Guard may ask you.
And Murphy's Law says, I mean, it's unlikely both of us are gonna end up in the water, but you could, right? And then now what happens?
Exactly. So you have to use them as helping us.
Since they may not have cell service.
Normal people many times get very squeamish, so anything icky kind of happens, like they lose it. You know?
Oh, yeah.
You also need-
We hate it.
Yeah, and they can say, help, what do I do to the Coast Guard? The Coast Guard can, they'll guide them through
You hear
that.
people on the radio panicking.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you have any experience with Voltaren? I
Actually,
found
that's
that
the
stuff really
Voltaren
works.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
think about back pain,
muscle
35 years of neurosurgery, I saw a little back pain.
Yeah.
People find what works for them, and that's what you do. And so it might be that you roll yourself into a ball and you're comfortable, or you stand up, or you lie down, you have your knees bent. So it really, you gotta listen to your body, it knows. So you don't have a lot at your disposal on the boat, but you use what works. And also, I think, Nancy brought up another excellent point, is you don't know any medical history of anybody, and if somebody's bleeding and they're on 3 blood pressure meds and one of them blocks their heart rate, so they're never going to get tachycardic, it takes a lot for them to get tachycardic. So if you're looking for that as a sign that they're in trouble or
Racy
not,
heart.
then
Yeah,
you're
yeah, I
not
was
going to
just
see
gonna say,
it.
what is
So
it?
it gets
Yeah.
complicated
Fast heart.
quickly.
So, you know, life is getting very complicated, and this is a bleed kit that I actually got. It's called a Stop the Bleed kit. You know, an AED says to you, okay, hit the button, all clear and all that. This talks to you too. It's not for everybody. I got this for my church because, you know, somebody could be bleeding at the pew, and I'm like, hey, you know, we have people that are ushers, that are EMTs and stuff, but it's really, really cool. So I'm just saying, this was like $300. And as you use each piece, it's labeled. And when it tells you to put it on, it says take out B1, which is on the gloves. And they say assess the body, which is bleeding. Like, let's just say you have a big wound here. You know, you're going to take your winter coat, you're going to sit on the person, you know, and try to stop this bleed, because you can't apply a tourniquet, you can't do anything to the center of the body, you know. So it's an interesting thing, and it's not to scare anybody, but it's really cool because it saves a life, because you can just bleed out in a minute or two, depending on the wound. So Ray's going to talk to us about tourniquets.
That kid talks to you?
This kid talks to you, yes.
So it's got
Well, okay, I guess what I need to say is it goes on your phone, you get an app, and I have the app, I put the phone down, and it talks you through what part of the body, how long you've been bleeding, what medicines you know of, or even if you don't even know that, you say, I don't know. It takes you right through the algorithm. It's a very cool thing. But it's not cheap, and it's not for everybody.
And for the average bear, you know, a good shot of adrenaline because you've got something going on, and direct pressure is probably going to do your best. Just like the best way to bail a sinking boat is a frightening man with a bucket. It's going to overdrive and start
Then,
reacting.
if that uses an app, though,
Well, there's
it's not
5
made for boats, because if you don't have a good internet connection, the app's not gonna run. So keep that in mind. If we're offshore close, you're gonna get a cell signal, but just an FYI, it would be better if it was hard built into the machine, but
Well,
that
it has 5 programs for 5 phones.
yeah,
but
but you
still.
need a good cell signal if the
Yeah.
app is gonna run.
I get you.
I'm not saying I'm not poo-pooing, but
I'm just
if you're
showing
gonna be
what's
far
out there.
offshore, it's not
Maybe
gonna
not
work.
good for a boat, and you're right, because even the cell system, even at a dock, is
Sometimes not so good.
It's pretty
Yeah.
sketchy. So Ray, could you?
Yeah, question on that.
Yeah.
To Joe's point,
Yeah.
does that require cell service, or is it Bluetooth between the phone and
Yeah,
that?
but the app probably needs, it may need to talk
It
to
may
something else,
be on
that's
board.
what you need to
Sounds
know.
like, but it's
It may be on board with that.
most apps need to talk to the home.
I will investigate that
Out on the
because.
water, your Wi-Fi is through the cell. If you get a bad cell signal,
You know, I
we should
have the
try it.
app on my phone and I can play with it later and
Try it.
see.
You got to be offshore ways though to see if you're not getting
Just-
like a 5G
All right,
signal.
Just shut the Wi-Fi off and
Shut
try.
the
Because
Wi-Fi
usually
off.
when the Wi-Fi's off, it'll switch to cellular.
Right.
I don't think it's, I think what
No,
it is.
what I'm saying, Paul, if you don't have a good, if it needs a connection to home, you need a good cell signal to get there when you're on the boat out.
I have a
We
feeling
don't-
it's just an app like you would have.
Most apps talk to home. We
Okay,
don't really-
well, we'll play
You gotta
with
check
it.
them.
Good point.
Just,
Good point.
just so that, because you don't want to be in the middle of it and say, oh shit, why is it not working? Right?
Yeah.
No, good point.
So Ray, he's going to talk about when do you use a tourniquet.
Well, they said for a wound, the best thing is direct pressure. That's the fastest thing. Three types of wounds as far as the anatomy of what's going on. You get the road rash, and that's the capillary bleed. You get a laceration, mild laceration, or bulging even. That could be all venous bleeding, all vein bleeding. The word venous bleeding is a dark red in color. If you look at anatomy charts, they show it in blue. It's not blue. Only horseshoe crabs have blue blood. It's just dark red, whereas a arterial bleed is bright red, and it'll be spurting. It's pulsatile. Okay, I got it. So, direct pressure is the best thing on all three of those. You agree with that?
No. But
kind of the theme has been here, field expediency. What's can you use that you already have on board, like a splinting, with a magazine and a pillow. And so if you don't have a tourniquet, you have to put it in here. No, it's
I guess too, if you want to show these things, because
Is it like a exercise
it's a stretch tourniquet. It shows you how to apply it to make.
or resistance bands, or a belt, or a sail tie.
Yeah. The belt being the narrowest you want to go. You don't want to go with wire or a shoelace or anything.
Do you want to demonstrate on me anything?
Sure, if you want to demonstrate that one.
This I bought online. Actually, I took a Stop the Bleed class, and they had these, and it's sort of like it's like a tourniquet, and it shows you how to wrap and tuck, and it talks to you on it, like it shows you designs, so it says how to make it tight. It's kind of interesting. But you know what? It's a little complicated for the average Joe. I think what we would do is the belts.
Yeah,
Something
that's one of the best things. And you probably aren't carrying one of these, we do, but it's a tourniquet, it's a commercial product, and it's simple to use.
You could carry these on your boat. It costs like $5.
This is the laceration right here, the watch. You want to go as close to it, but not closer than about 2 inches. And it depends on how much flesh there is between the two, but about 2 inches. And in this particular model, you strap this up, snug only, and it has Velcro to hold that in place. And then they have this little windlass here. Tighten it down, and you'll feel it pretty soon.
And once your eyes start bulging,
You need to stop.
How's that? I think I've lost the radial pulse here. So that's what you want. But you'll be able to see it. The spurting will stop. And then the way this one is, it just locks in place. And this model has a little indicator here. You write the time on it. We used to just put it on the forehead and say T 0930. And then
1 o'clock p.m.
Are we doing military?
oh, okay. Yeah. For Joe, big hands beyond the 9. Joe just waved to me.
You know, it seems kind of scary, but it really makes it tight, so it stops the bleeding.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're going to pull on a belt, and the last hole, and there may not be another hole, and they're like,
I'll leave this up here. So
What is the name of that?
tourniquet. I don't know if there's a brand name.
It's called a
Oh,
tourniquet.
it is. It's CAT.
Cat?
C-A-T. CAT tourniquet.
Cat tourniquet.
So I ordered 3 at a time for like $11 on Amazon, and I got one in my car, one of my boat, you know. So it's like,
We're
it's just
still
good to
living on
have.
that.
And the tourniquet's never released
Is it?
by us.
Yeah.
You know, when you get to gals in the ER or something, it's, they'll take care of it. But you don't release it. The old protocol used to be every so many minutes, 20 minutes or something, you release it for a while, put it back. Protocol today says no, you
And
don't.
how many
No,
hours?
for most
do you-
situations, you've got 3 hours.
3 hours? That's what I was gonna ask, 3 hours.
So you want to get the eyeballs, go back in.
Or if anybody travels with blood pressure cuff, you would have
Yeah, you can use a blood pressure cuff, just pump it up. You guys have, if you guys are on blood pressure medications, you should definitely have an Omron or some portable cuff on you. And you know, they don't last forever, so, you know.
and they're cheap.
They're cheap, and then you can bring it to the doctor's office with your readings and say, check my cuff against yours. And if they say, oh, yours is way off, throw the damn thing out and get a new one, because it's like not a tool that'll work. So I keep one on my boat so that people can take it right out. As a matter of fact, I also have one of these. Not that we need them. Oximeters. I mean, you guys know this, you put on your finger and check your oxygen. You have one on our watches,
Yeah,
that's
or
another
take your
thing.
fitness device and slap it on the person.
Exactly, you can put the
Gives you
Fitbit
a
on
sort
the
of
person.
down reading.
You can see their oxygen level, you can check their blood pressure, their heart rate, just by putting your watch on them, which is so cool. When you said that, I was like, that makes total sense. You know, if you don't have all these gizmos with you. Okay, what about amputation? Did you want to talk about amputation?
Not a whole lot, pretty grisly, it's just, you know, you
Yeah.
don't want to put whatever the piece of the extremity is on ice. You just want to, in a cool
Or
ball,
milk.
try to keep it as clean as possible, and it's basic wound care, usually it's going to be bleeding.
Can you repeat that? I couldn't hear what you said about ice. I didn't hear what
So
you
there's
said.
sort of, I think, a lot of, you know, lay speak that says, put it on ice, you know. Put
Yes.
it on,
What's it, you're talking about a
the
severed
finger,
extremity
the
now?
rest- Whatever's been amputated, the toe or the finger, you know, typically.
So what do you, I'm just having,
So
your
you
voice
want
is
it to
getting
be-
low.
Yeah.
So you want it to be cool, but not iced. So just, you know, temperature.
So put it in the fridge, not the freezer.
Yeah. Well, wrap it in a cool washcloth, like wet washcloth that's cool, and put it in an ice, you know, in your little ice chest or something, and bring it to the hospital with the person, you know, of course, you know. And of course, you have to stop
I
the
left it
bleed.
in the fridge on the post.
Stop it. It's just, you know, the little picnic kit.
I got a cooler.
Can't take you anywhere.
Hey, we need to laugh once in a while.
Okay, nosebleeds.
So nosebleeds are pretty common, usually in a dry environment. They're a little bit, people are more prone. Usually it's bleeding that's coming from the front of the nose. You can have Afrin spray. You gotta be careful because it can affect blood pressure, but you can soak a cotton ball or something you can stick up there as packing. You can also pinch the bridge of the nose. It can take about 20 minutes and really just sort of pitch your head forward just a little bit, not back, because you're going to be swallowing blood and then vomiting. It'll probably happen soon after that. And most of them are going to be pretty self-limiting. If you need to pack the nose because it's persistent bleeding, you can, cut a gauze and just make like a long ribbon, just to make sure that you can retrieve it so it's not going to disappear down the back of the throat. That's what you don't want to create a worse with your compression. So it really is pressure and the bridge of the nose, above the tip.
And you just don't put the head back like
Yeah,
you
right.
used to.
Because you swallow.
And you really want to press like here, right here, and really, really press hard, you know?
For a good 20 minutes. It can take a while.
So we're gonna go into concussion. Judy, you want to do that?
Sure. So concussion head injury can be really scary. It can be a no loss of consciousness event where you bonk your head, where you really have to be careful again, blood thinners, because those are the medications people are on, and it doesn't take very much head trauma to really cause a problem. Also, if you've been noted to, hoist back a few over the years, your brain atrophies over time. So there's actually a lot more space in there, so it takes just a little bit of a slash and you can really tug on those veins inside your skull and create some fluid on the brain over time. So you got to be really, really cautious when it comes to people with bleeding tendencies, most likely medication induced. You want to be sure that someone can, make sense and know where they are and seem to be, comfortable in their surroundings. They often don't remember. It's a little bit chicken and egg what happened. so they can be really fuzzy about the details. And it's okay to let them rest and go to sleep. You don't have to stay awake for 48 hours like you used to hear the grandma say. You want to be able to arouse them so they can nap. Make sure you wake them up every few hours and that they're making sense and that it's not hard to get them to wake up. You can check pupil size, use the light from your cell phone, just to make sure that they're reactive in the same size. If you have one that's gotten big, you're in trouble. You'll probably have blood collection growing on the brain, and I want to get that person evacuated very quickly. So most of the time it's going to be concussion with just sort of that dazed and confused, where they bonked their head, and it's going to be self-limiting. It'll be fine. It may be a little headachy, but really nothing to worry about. What you really want to be concerned about is there any kind of underlying injury that I'm not noticing? And the way that you would notice that is the person may become more lethargic, stop making sense, have severe headache or worsening headache, nausea, or projectile vomiting. Headache, nausea, vomiting after head injury is something's going on in your brain. You probably have pressure in there for some reason. There's a blood clot growing. There's something bad's going on. You need to get attention. So really sort of the aftermath. And then the other risk there is seizures. You can have a perfectly normal life, never having had a seizure. Once you bonk your head, you've irritated your brain. The outside layer is where seizures come from the brain cells. And you can have just a episode where you're out of control and then you sort of shut down and then you're really, really sleepy and lethargic. So what you don't want to do after a potential head injury, you want to watch someone to make sure they're not going to have a seizure. No alcohol. Alcohol lowers seizure threshold. It makes you more likely to have one. So stay away from the docktails if you hit your head. Have a down day, just chill out. But just, rest is fine. Tylenol, certainly no blood thinners, aspirin, or things like even anti-inflammatories can make it a little bit more at risk. And just watch the pupils, see that they're reactive, and you've got a matching set. And that will make sense and you can easily awaken.
You can use your light on your phone and just look at their eyes and just see that their pupils are exactly the same. If one's really dilated, the other one's not, or it's not reacting, you know this person has an injury that has to be addressed really quickly.
And usually not going to be clear on the sequence of events of what happened first.
Yeah.
It's usually a pretty quick blurry moment that just doesn't come back to us.
Okay, Ray, your turn again. Cardiac event.
Okay. On this matter right here, what could get troublesome in your mind is it okay? Am I treating this okay? Or do I need professionals there? We have several other levels of professionals, from the first responders, you get with the fire company or police, and then they will notify the dispatcher, have to notify the ambulance, and you probably get a paramedic with the ambulance, right after the ambulance. And then, of course, you get to the ER, you get the techs, the docs, the nurses, nurse practitioners, PAs, everybody's there. So, but the flavor here is because if we're here, we might get a first responder in 10 minutes. I don't know what it is right here. At home, we get that. If we're at sea, a couple hours. Could be. Coast Guard has to alert. They have to go through the sector, and they have to get dispatched and go in whatever distance. So, what we should be absorbing here from this, and this is a great manual that Nancy and Judy prepared. It's great to have. Probably should read it, see what's in there, just enough to see what's in there, and then keep it on board, I would say.
Could I ask a question before you start talking about cardiac? So this may be elementary, but I just trying to process it. So when I go and give blood, or they withdraw blood, they put the band and it causes the blood to come out. So I'm not understanding how the tourniquet is helping stop the blood.
Because the tourniquet is so tight, it compresses those vessels.
Mm-hmm. So
the tourniquet, when you're getting blood drawn, is just enough to make the veins a little more prominent, so you can get a needle in, and then they take it off.
Okay, so I got blood drawn the other day, and I thought it was pretty tight. So you want it tighter than that?
Or it compresses, it has to be higher than your pressure, basically.
So if the cut is here, I'm going to put the tourniquet above it?
Between the cut and your heart.
Okay, and if...
Like Ray said, a couple
and
of
you want, and it can be really tight. Like, when we talk about not putting things on too tight because it cuts the circulation, that's what we're doing.
Cut the circulation. Okay. Because you're going to bleed to death if you don't.
Just the last follow-up question. So we have exercise bands on our boat. Is that too small to use, or would that
No,
work?
the width is fine, it's just you gotta tie it so that it's tight enough that you're gonna oppose the pressure coming back.
All right, thank
That's
you.
the beauty of the windlass, that little pole. You know, you can even use a stick.
Right, but I'm talking
Yeah.
about what we have on our boat
Well,
today
you can
without buying
use a
things.
You can
Spoon,
use
ice
a-
cream
you
stick,
can
something
use a
like
little
that on the
spoon.
band.
Oh, okay.
You
know
can
how-
use your
Oh, I
band.
got
When
you.
you have a blood pressure taken
Yeah.
your cuff and when it feels like your arm's numb,
Yeah.
that's where you wanna go. That's the pressure you want in the tourniquet.
Okay,
So you could use your band. The
Right,
The
and
problem
then
is
have
you
it-
can't make the knot tight enough.
got you.
But if you use the band and you take the wooden spoon, which is great, you can twist that spoon around and around until
Okay,
this
good.
is so tight. That's a really great thing, because the tourniquets are nice though, because like you showed them, and I know we're getting off tangent, but they're really together, you know, and they're, if you need them, you need them. But
We've got some
Yeah.
Velcro straps we bought from Amazon, but they're heavy duty, they essentially look like that.
Yeah, but they don't have this.
But
He
when you
doesn't
slide,
wanna-
then you slide the
we'll
new.
just show it to you, just so you can touch it. Okay, so, Ray, is there anything else you want to add? Like when to take an aspirin or what?
Okay.
You know, that kind of thing?
Just further on Darlene's point, the indicator on how tight to make it is when the spurting stops. That's the best. You're not going to take blood pressure to determine that or take time to do it. When the spurting stops, that's what you want to stop because that's the danger that you bleed out. The heart's pumping through the arteries, that blood will go out real fast, depending on where it is. So that's what you want to stop.
Yeah, it's a pretty extreme situation.
Yeah.